Hello and welcome to Twin Takes on Twin Peaks, a potentially short-lived project in which myself and CP are going to be going through the world of Twin Peaks, which is something I'm fairly familiar with, and CP isn't, hence the title. Yeah, at all. Whereas I've seen everything twice. I wouldn't call myself a hardcore Twin Peaks fan, for sure. There are people out there who have, essentially written books on theories and all sorts of things with Twin Peaks, but 2017 was when I went through the whole Blu-ray box set, which I believe you now have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of got sucked into the world. I had problems with it. There were things I didn't like on first viewing, and still now I would say as well, it's not a completely perfect thing for me. And what's interesting for me about this is that I don't think you're going to completely love it.
Well, thank God I'm going through this.
Yeah, but that's interesting to me because I'm intrigued to see what you'll like, what you won't like. And again, it could be short-lived, I don't know. I mean, you're not tied to the whole thing. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And but I just wanted to record this intro before we watch the pilot because I want to know, what is your perception of Twin Peaks before you've even seen any of it?
I thought we were going to watch the first episode right now, so I had the disc loaded, and I've heard two things that I've heard from your marathon video in just the title sequence of the Blu-ray menu were the trees. All I know about it, really, I know it's a show that aired when I was a little kid, and I thought it was some USA romantic comedy thing, like I think Wings aired before it or after it, which is a comedy about, two pilots. So I had no sort of nothing to gauge Twin Peaks on. And only recently when they redid or they've revisited, I don't know what that new season that came out a year ago was that somehow attached, or is it like I have very little to no knowledge of Twin Peaks. Like I said, there's stuff that I know from your marathon now.
Yeah. So no, there was the first season in I think 1989, or at least the pilot came out in 1989. 1990 season 2 got cancelled. It kind of became this phenomenon very quickly, burned out very quickly, and then I think 1 or 2 years later, Lynch made a prequel movie, which is also kind of a sequel. Okay. Wrap your head around that. And then 25 years later, they did a third season, which is a continuation, but it's kind of very different from everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds very Lynchy anyway, so.
Yeah, and I would say the original series, it has a lot of the Lynch elements, but he also wrote it with someone else, and there's other directors and writers involved, so as the show goes on, it kind of goes down different turns, and towards the end of season 2, Lynch came back to kind of finish it in a way. But for me, what I had kind of thought of Twin Peaks before I saw any of it was just this one image, which I'm not going to say what it is because it would kind of spoil things, but it's the last shot of season 2, which essentially is the cliffhanger that was never resolved for 25 years. So I must have seen some TV show compilation on TV, the top 25 best TV shows ever, and I just remember them showing that cliffhanger scene from the very end. So that was all I really knew about it. I knew it was set in the Pacific Northwest, kind of trees, gloomy, that kind of thing, but otherwise, again, yeah, smell those trees. So yeah, so you really have no frame of reference for it.
I cool. really don't. Only because the most recent, from a year or two ago, that season, that people tied it up, and being in the YouTube sphere, seeing people reference that, I never put 2 and 2 together that this was something that David Lynch had a lot to do with. But it was something that came and went in my childhood, and I never really thought twice about it. But then recently, since people were saying, "Oh yeah, David Lynch is bringing Twin Peaks back," I was like, "Oh, that's a David Lynch thing." So David Lynch is really kind of a hot and cold director for me. There's stuff that I've seen of his. Granted, I haven't seen everything. There's a certain, I don't know, niche to what he does. Everything he does is pretty out there. That's the one thing I can say.
Yeah.
And I've been told by people, I'm a big fan of Lost. I've been told by fellow Lost fans that there are certain homages to Twin Peaks in there. So I'm curious to see. Again, everything I'm going to experience will be backwards. So if I recognize something, I'm like, oh, I remember this from Luke's marathon, or oh, I remember this from episode whatever of Lost. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, how far I can get, because Lynch, I kind of lose my patience with the like really out there stuff where it's just like, come on, man, come on. But yeah, I'm eager to learn.
Well, if you lose your patience with Lynch at times, I really hope we make this to the final season, because
oh, really?
That's pure, unadulterated David Lynch, the last season.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of excited to hear what your thoughts are. I will say the pilot episode, which is about an hour and a half, is essentially a David Lynch movie. Like, he just they directed and made that kind of extended pilot, and then once the series starts proper, I think he directed a few of the first episodes, and then it kind of gets passed off to other people. But the pilot is essentially the thing they made to sell. Well, you know what a pilot is, what am I talking about? But
sure.
So
I failed at one. So there's two versions on this Blu-ray. There's the pilot, and then there's the international version. What is
okay, so
am I not supposed to know anything about that?
We're not watching the international version.
Okay.
So again, when they made the pilot, and I think they did this a lot back then, the TV studios would say, film an ending to the pilot in case we don't pick up the show, and we can release it as a movie in Europe.
Oh.
So the international version is Twin Peaks in 2 hours, where they just filmed a 15-minute ending, which, yeah, it's not canon, basically.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Maybe I'll go back to that after everything's said.
Yeah, they do use a few fragments from the ending of the international version later on in the series, and they kind of repurpose it. But if you watch it independently, it's not great. So
not that great. Yeah. So this girl Laura Palmer on the cover,
yeah,
she's missing, and then that's essentially the story. We're trying to figure out what happened to this girl.
You could say she's missing.
Oh, okay.
The show opens, spoilers, with her washed up dead on the shore. So I mean that's
spoilers. First scene is her dead. Spoilers.
hence my tone. Yeah, I mean it's right up on Front Street. Laura Palmer is dead, and that's what the series is kind of about. So
okay,
we'll get into it, and then at some point afterwards we'll discuss our thoughts. It's going to be different for me revisiting it, obviously, and there are certain things I can't really comment on. I can't be like, oh, that's really nice because it ties into that from later on, because then I'll spoil something for you. But
okay.
But I'm intrigued, so let's get to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're done with the pilot of Twin Peaks, episode 1, or if you follow the official episode order, it's episode 0, I guess, because the next episode is counted as episode 1, I think.
Okay.
So, right off the bat, your first thoughts?
I said this to you in while we were watching it. It's not that lynchy as I was afraid of it being. It felt pretty straightforward. Aside from every now and again, wardrobe just totally not fitting the area. A couple of random lines. The barking towards the end was kind of out there, but like that's for me, that's tame David Lynch type stuff. So I don't know if it's maybe it leads somewhere, but that's not that bad. It felt like a like a typical show from that period. Just enough of an intriguing ending to get some curiosity.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me to revisit, I'll tell you that much. Like, I was saying to you, I couldn't even remember how it ended, because a lot of it just kind of blurs into one giant whole, really, when I think about it. But also, when you know what you know, looking at all, I mean, it just, when I first saw this, my first reaction was, this is intriguing, I like the mystery, some of the acting's really over the top.
Oof.
The music I really struggled with the first time round. Coming back to it now, I would even still critique it, I think, because I'm so familiar with all of the music that's used in this pilot, but I think it's so overused at times. I think it's even poorly put together. Some of the sound editing, I think. We always get into that thing with the Oscars. Sound editing, sound mixing. Regardless, like the way it kind of blends in, and some of those themes, which I now associate with particular characters in this pilot, are now used like all over the shop. So it might be a case of they were finding their feet with this, and then as the series started properly, they assigned some of those musical cues to certain characters. I don't know.
Yeah, there was. I mean, the music didn't jump out to me other than knowing it from your marathon. There was, I think, 2 or 3 songs or cues in there that I was like, "Yep, I already know this." But there was one scene, and I can't remember it, where the music didn't match what was happening on screen. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was a scene where somebody was crying or distraught, and the music really didn't match that. Other than that, it didn't jump out at me.
Yeah. It just, when I first saw this, it all felt very repetitive. It felt like 5 different pieces used over and over and over again.
Right.
Now, I kind of have a love for the world and the music, and so it's kind of enjoyable to me. But I still think that, some of it is a bit over the. So even like it'll like overpower the dialogue a little bit, which seems a bit strange. So the story, like the actual mystery and intrigue, how did that grab you?
Like I said, it's nothing that I would say, like, if you told me, yeah, this got canceled after 2 seasons, like, so far from all I've seen, yeah, it seems pretty legit. There's a lot of mystery stories. This kind of falls right into stuff like crime thrillers of the period. We kind of got saturated with them in the 90s. There are a couple of hints of this is a little bit more than that, but for a mainstream audience, myself included, I guess, it seems pretty run of the mill, aside from a couple of scenes here and there. It feels very pedestrian, I guess is the best way to put it. There is 2 or 3 moments where the cinematography kind of stuck out, which you really don't, with television series. You don't really get to, they're shooting so fast and such a quick schedule. It's medium shot reverse, not much going on with the cinematography. But that was a little different here. But again, this is a pilot, so I guess it doesn't count the same way it would for regular television series. But yeah, a girl's dead. People are trying to figure out what's going on, and somebody has a little bit of a secret, and then we end the episode with a bit of a cliffhanger as to what's going on with that little pact that they made with the secret.
Yeah, there's a very famous moment in this episode for most Twin Peaks fans that I can't tell you yet what it is.
Okay.
But seeing it is just so fucking cool, because there's essentially a mistake in this episode.
Okay.
Like a movie mistake, like an error, and that basically informs one of the biggest parts of the entire story, and that mistake was worked into the story. So I'd gone back after seeing everything to watch that clip, but seeing it in the episode was really cool. And if anyone listening is a Twin Peaks fan, you should know what I mean. It's the moment right near the end of the episode. So acting, what's your thoughts on the acting? Because I certainly think that Dana Ashbrook, who plays Bobby Briggs, a little bit over the top here.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it's now looking back and seeing some of the good stuff he does later on. So I kind of let him off the hook a little bit. But first impressions, I think he's a little out there.
Yeah. No, it's all over the place. The one thing I noticed watching this was there's a lot of who's who of feature role
Yeah,
actors in this movie, which is kind of impressive. It has its peaks, it has its valleys, but for the most part, the acting's pretty good. Just
yeah.
two or three people just chewing scenery, uh, like you said. And I didn't know that was it David Lynch's son that is the boyfriend. Um,
No, the
for the-
Leo, he is the son of the casting director, and
yeah,
so I remember
no,
finding that out and going, oh, okay, so he
yeah,
kind of had a
yeah.
little bit of preferential treatment there.
Line, drink, line, drink, line, drink.
Yeah, Eric DeRay, I think, who plays Leo Johnson, and you know, I give him credit. He does. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but
Okay,
he gets better as he goes on. But I still
okay.
think, all told, not the best of actors.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's all over the place. You have some really, again, solid character actors that
Mm,
make the story enjoyable. Much, like, I'll do it again. I'll compare it to Lost. Lost, no real big stars in that show, but a bunch of solid character actors. So it kind of fits. You don't need a star. It just everybody else kind of gelling together.
yeah. Well, we could probably segue from that pretty neatly to Carl McLachlan, who plays Special Agent Dale Cooper.
Hmm.
Were you aware that he was, essentially the main star of the show?
I was not. I was not.
Did you get that impression from watching this pilot?
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Yeah, he very much becomes the focal point, and his quest to solve this mystery of
Mhm.
Laura Palmer's death is, kind of the big thing. What were your impressions of his character?
Um, Pretty straightforward. There's a couple of ticks that he does that I don't know if that was a Lynch thing, a him thing, or what. But there's a lot of times where he'll like really open his eyes, like abnormally so. And
Mm,
in this episode, like he'll be looking at something or talking about something, and he just expands his eyes so far. Sometimes I'm like, is that supposed? Am I supposed to be like honing in on something? Because I'm not sure of that. He's a little quirky.
yeah.
Um, which okay, which is knowing that he's the main character kind of makes it interesting. But he's the out of town guy, so I figured that's why he's a little quirky and has fun little quips because he's not a local. But um, I guess I certainly can be wrong.
Yeah, he's very idiosyncratic. He has
Mm,
his unique personality trait. What I kind of enjoy is that he essentially is this quirky guy who comes into this quirky town and
yeah.
kind of almost fits in right at home.
Hmm.
And his kind of very upbeat nature,
Yeah.
even in the midst of, like he's going down to the morgue and he's like talking very excitedly about this cherry pie that he had.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's kind of what I was referring to. Like he doesn't match the mood sometimes, which not incredibly too far out there for a David Lynch product, but
yeah, and this was written with Mark Frost, so it's not like a pure David Lynch written
mhm,
and directed.
mhm,
It's one of his partnerships where they created this together. So I think you kind of see bits of both.
mhm,
Not that I'm familiar with Mark Frost's stuff on his own, so I
mhm.
can't really comment on that. But it definitely doesn't feel full Lynch, to put it
Right.
that way. Coming off of the movies like Eraserhead and Blue Velvet prior to Twin Peaks.
Right.
What were the moments that stood out to you, or what were the moments that stood out to you as bad, like good and bad, pros and cons?
Um, the acting of Leather Jacket Boy, what's his name again? The boyfriend,
Bobby,
Bobby.
yeah,
Yeah, right off the bat when he's being interrogated at the school, I think it's a school library or something, right?
yeah, it doesn't really ring that true, does it?
Yeah, it's a little over the top. Certainly could have been reined in. Um, but I get it. I guess everybody else being calm and him being excited, like you could, with enough coercing, I can understand it. I think, but um, like again, the guy who's what's his name, Leo,
Leo, yeah,
the guy who needs to drink every time he says something. That was a little silly. I'd rather somebody overact than be so stiff like that. But those are the only two real moments that really jumped out at me as bad or
yeah.
noteworthy in a negative light.
One thing that I felt at the first viewing, a couple of years ago, was when the parents of Laura Palmer find out that she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
I just found their acting again over the top, and I didn't quite connect to it.
Really?
And now I was really quite moved by it and touched because again I know everything, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
I just have a better footing on the characters,
Uh-huh.
and I just and seeing both of those actors do really great stuff later on in the show, I kind of appreciated their performances a little bit more, I think.
See, I would lean and say maybe the mother, because she's on the other end of the phone and not really knowing what's going on. That I felt like it was a little bit difficult. First of all, the sheriff never said what happened, but yeah, I guess you don't need to say much at that point. She could be, in the ICU in a coma. It
Yeah.
doesn't always mean death, but with the mom on the other end of the phone, not really hearing anything, she kind of jumped to conclusions a bit. But
Yeah, I think you could maybe think of that as like kind of a mother's intuition, but also the fact that she'd gone through every possibility of where she could be,
right,
and then she hears the sheriff turn
yeah,
up to speak to her husband, and then the line goes.
yep,
Um,
yeah,
but again, it could be something a little less serious than death.
yeah,
So,
right, right, right.
but then I guess that kind of allows both parents to have this go through the same thing at the same time.
Hmm.
At least for us as the audience, who kind of a little bit of a cheat, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. It would be nice to see like a ripple effect of sorts. Him finding out, then having to tell her.
Yeah.
It's a choice. They both make sense. I guess it's fine.
One thing I don't actually even realize is how they find where the incident happened, the train car. I'm not sure what led the police to that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Even
yeah.
yeah,
Oh wait, the video. Oh no, wait, no, no, no,
no,
no.
the video wasn't linked to that. So
Yeah,
another thing I picked up on, which I'd kind of forgotten about, is that this kind of sets up that everyone is having an affair. Everyone is like seeing someone else. This all these kind of romantic entanglements in the town.
yeah.
Um,
Because Bobby, right? Bobby, leather jacket kid.
yeah, yeah, I like how you just like, hey, red jacket, and
Yeah, dude. I'm not good with
it's kind of
names.
the shorthand.
Yeah, red jacket, leather jacket, 50s girl. When he was at the diner, I was like, wait, who is he smitten for? Because like he was just kind of, flirting with one chick, and then he left with another one. It was just like, whoa, who, what?
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
So I did want to kind of record for posterity that your first comment to me was, ugh, 4x3. So how did you cope with an hour and a half of square ratio?
well, I had to step closer to the television first of all. No, it's fine. It's like Twilight Zone. When I watch that, it's 4x3. It's fine. It's fine. Just just unfortunate. Like when they bring stuff, like Friends wasn't shot in widescreen, and somehow the original episodes are presented in widescreen. Just a
Yeah,
personal little. Oh man.
yeah, it would be nice. And you mentioned the cinematography.
Mhm.
I can't really speak to this, but I've seen the documentaries on the making of the show, and people attesting to how Twin Peaks was doing something that hadn't really been done too much before on TV, which was making something a little bit cinematic that's on
Okay.
TV. But
Yeah.
I can't say I really watched much TV back then. I was like 1, 2 years old,
Yeah.
so I can't really say yeah, that's definitely the case. But that's what I hear. That's at least to regular stuff that was going on TV at the time.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed, which I have film school to thank for this, Citizen Kane, Orson Welles, was famous for being the first person to really show the ceiling in film. And I would say, I certainly can be wrong, but I would jump on that statement and say this is probably the first time a television series showed a lots of ceiling, because there was 3 or 4 shots where I'm like, ooh, it's taking a little bit extra and showing the design of the ceiling.
Yeah,
The diner, they went out of their way, and then when the mom is looking for Laura in the beginning, the shot from like down at the bottom of the steps where she's just kind of in frame at all times. That
Yeah.
was really neat too. Yeah, that's something that you wouldn't have seen on television back then.
Yeah, and like you say, being a pilot, it's a bit of a different case because
Right.
it's it's being shot as a movie
Yeah.
essentially. But as the series got picked up, then obviously it's like all hands on deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
we
I
have 3 days to do this episode. Let's go.
yeah, exactly. I still really enjoy the kind of the intrigue of Laura Palmer. Like it's because you never meet her, and so all your impressions of this character, who is another focal point of the entire story, is someone you never get to see in the flesh, and it's all other people's thoughts about her. Like when Sheriff Truman's like, there's no way there's cocaine in there. You don't know who she was.
Right.
Like, and then just even like her best friend Donna kind of learns things at the end that she didn't quite know. So it just opens up all these possibilities, and there's a lot of, I think, baiting throughout the episode of like people who might be involved, which is kind of standard fare for a whodunit.
Yeah.
But did you get any kind of feeling of, oh, could that be? Were you even thinking who could be the killer?
No, because like you said, there's lots of baiting.
Yeah.
But like I get the sensation that, all right, so one person who thinks they know her really well is completely wrong, and another person who thinks they know, like she could just be a different person for everybody. So that I kind of like held to the side. When the guy that was with her and also has a motorcycle, when he had the necklace, the other half of the heart thing, that kind of piqued my interest because again, it could be a good old red herring, but
Yeah.
the fact that the police are concerned about both a motorcycle and the necklace, and he's got both, kind of interesting.
Yeah. I really liked, actually, I'd forgotten the moment where Cooper sees in the video the bike reflected in the eyeball.
That's some high-tech VHS too, by the way. Because
I was gonna say, yeah, it's some really nice quality on that. But it was a cool little reveal. And what was it you were saying to me on Messenger about about the donuts being laid out?
Oh,
You said it was like army.
Yeah, they were like. First of all, we get them in either boxes or somebody will just lay them out on a plate. But no, the donuts are laid out like they're army soldiers, separated by the same amount and stacked into twos. It was really strange. Emily said, "Oh, they're separated by their what they are." I'm like, "Yeah, but why are they lined up like soldiers? It's so strange."
And like such an unreasonable amount of donuts, and Truman's like, yeah, she lines them up every night. It's like we only ever really see 4 cops, and it's just like, how many people are in that
Right.
sheriff's station? So we get kind of glimpses at characters who become bigger supporting characters later on. Like I noticed, you wouldn't know who they are, but just in the pilot episode, they're almost like blink and you'll miss it, which is interesting to me. The log lady, don't know if you even caught her in kind of the town meeting. Oh, there's another thing that I thought was cool, which again you won't know about, which kind of relates to the movie. So there's some cool pieces there. I like how it kind of all slots into place somehow. Although I will say and forewarn you that everything slotting into place doesn't quite happen in the end, but some things do.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's just say that you just saw this independently, you just turned it on. Would you be compelled to continue? Because obviously we've decided to kind of do this little thing and you've bought the Blu-ray, but if you just watched it completely blind on your own, would you think, I need to see the next one, or would you leave it?
I wouldn't be in a rush to.
Yeah.
But I'd be intrigued. It's not something I would go out of my way to like, as much as there's a cliffhanger and it's intriguing. It's not something that like I would put on like Breaking Bad levels. All right, what's going on next? I need to see that.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested, if that makes any sense.
Sure. I think what drove me was really just the overall hype and people who I knew who really liked it, and that pushed me forward. It definitely isn't like oh my god, I have to see what happens next.
Yeah.
But I do think it is a well-built kind of mystery. But yeah, if we'd watched the international version, the conclusion is just not satisfying at all. So yeah.
I'm
And I
intrigued.
had forgotten that Julie Cruz performed in this as well at the Roadhouse Bar. She kind of pops up a couple of times throughout the rest of the show.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I think that's where the music didn't match, and the fight scene at the bar didn't make
oh,
sense.
okay.
That might have been it.
So I think really at this point there's not too much to go into because it really is early days. So I think unless you have any closing thoughts, we can kind of wrap it up there.
Did I ask you about the attire? Is that on purpose? Like the women wearing these fur coat, like swanky night on the town coats. Is that like is that a just a weird David Lynch thing, or is there a reason that they're so awkwardly dressed in this little mill town that really wouldn't it looks really abnormal in that setting?
I don't know. I can only say that as things go on, it becomes clear that Twin Peaks is not quite the ordinary town it might seem on the outside.
Okay.
Perhaps that's part of it, but also I think maybe just a simple aesthetic preference, perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, you said like 50s girl,
Yeah.
relating to Audrey Horne.
Right, red heels at high school, kind of. You wouldn't see that every day. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, and I think that Lynch really has this fascination with kind of 50s Americana.
Okay.
And so you see that kind of pop up throughout his work. I think maybe it sneaks into here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one thing I forgot actually was the Norwegians.
The Norwegians are leaving.
and that's that whole, side story is very, I don't know, bizarre.
You should have put that in your marathon.
Right.
It totally fit for you. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was fun for me to go back to it for sure. And I think the first season is about 7 episodes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty tight, first season.
Okay.
So I look forward to checking out more and seeing your continued thoughts. So if there's anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't want to bail yet, and it feels very very tame for Lynch. So I'm on board so far.
Yeah, don't worry, we're not at the 2017 season, so that's where things get truly weird. Anyway, so that has been it. I've been Luke. You've been CP.
I have.
Yep. I don't know how we're going to post this, where we're going to post this. You can check me out, RazorwireReviews, CP at Willie Screedia on YouTube. And we'll see you, perhaps, with the next one. And you can say bye at the end as well if you want.
Bye.